You just wait, man. You just wait. You can see it playing out this way right now. I don't know when, but if and when the day does come that the Royals or the Chiefs probably more likely than the Royals, to make a move to the other side of the state line, you will see leadership in and around Kansas City blame, yes, Republicans. Now, this is not going to be political. It should not be political. If the Royals or the Chiefs pick up their bags and go to Kansas, in part because they got their 3.8-cent sales tax shut down, well, that will be because of Republicans and Democrats. I mean, it lost by 16 points last month. You would think there would be some self-reflection on that rather than just pointing the finger at one political party, but that is in part what is going to happen if that day does come. I'm not convinced that it will. I don't believe that it will, especially after, if you missed it, late last night, the Kansas legislature decided that they were not going to move ahead with a new star bond opportunity meant to lure the Chiefs or the Royals over to Kansas. So they may try again in January, but for now, the idea of star bonds being used to get the Chiefs or the Royals to Kansas is dead. It's not happening. So this is a big blow. Forget the state of Kansas. I'm not convinced it's a big blow for the state of Kansas, but it's a big blow for the teams because the teams wanted that leverage. This is business 101. All these sports radio people freaking out saying, oh my gosh, the Chiefs are going to Kansas. You just watch. They wanted leverage more than anything else. They wanted the threat of going to Kansas. Maybe they also want to go to Kansas, and they can, right? I mean, you can fund your own way. You can do whatever you want. You're a business. But in terms of using the taxpayer or using, in part, tax revenues, it was all about leverage. That's what this game is. That's business 101. If you have leverage in any business opportunity, whether it's you with your employer or you as a business owner, if you have leverage, you have options, and you have the upper hand in any negotiation. The teams want leverage because that's in large part how you can succeed and get what you want in any business, having leverage. And that's what the teams need right now. If they want to get something out of Jackson County or Kansas City, it helps them if they have, well, if you don't give us what we want, we've got this big, shiny little opportunity out there by the legends. But the legislature could not get it done in time. So for now, at least, there's nothing happening on the Kansas side of the state line as far as we know. Now, there's still time, and we know that at this point, we know the deal at Truman Sports Complex runs till 2031. So it's not like, it is coming fast in the world of building stadiums, but there still is some time here to work around this. But when it comes to blaming Republicans, this was written in part by Tony's Kansas City yesterday, and he noted here that very much like the Kansas City murder rate, stadium funding for the Chiefs and Royals now threatens to become mired in partisan slap fighting. It says here, Kansas City continues to suffer historic and deadly violence while local political leadership point the finger at the GOP supermajority over gun rights, and Jeff City blames progressive policies and defund the police attitudes. Sadly, neither side seems actively interested in doing anything out of the ordinary to try and curb the violence. And so it's very likely the Chiefs and the Royals funding suffers the very same gridlock while both parties blame the other side for the disaster. Now, Tony may be right about that. He's got the pulse of what's going on in large part. But this is one of those things that for people that want to talk about it in a thoughtful, insightful, honest way, there's nothing about this that is political. Now, it is true that, as we talked to Scott Fawn about from the Missouri Times last hour, there are certain people who are running for governor who would be more inclined at the state level to give the teams some kind of money for stadiums than others. That's absolutely true. The perception, as Scott Fawn said, is that current Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe, if he were to be elected governor, is more likely to be the guy who might help out the teams with some funding than Jay Ashcroft or Bill Eigel of the three major candidates who are in that race. But in the end, the legislature would have to improve it. And there's no evidence to suggest the Missouri legislature is all that interested in handing taxpayer dollars to sports teams. By the way, you're seeing the Chicago Bears run into this right now, where they're getting blowback in Chicago on taxpayer dollars for a new stadium. So this is crossing party lines. It's not a red issue. It's not a blue issue. The way that business was done 15, 20, 25, 30 years ago for these stadiums appears to be a thing of the past. The taxpayer is not in the mindset right now to dole over their tax dollars to sports teams, because the average person on Main Street is hurting right now. They're struggling to pay their own bills. They're seeing every expense in their own lives go up. And just like we talked about here with a 3.8-cent sales tax in Jackson County, it wasn't really about the money, right? The people who were saying, well, you know, what is it, $50 a year, $75 a year? It wasn't ever about that. For a lot of people, it was about the principle, where Jackson County residents were fed up with their property taxes. They weren't enthused with the plans of either team. You know, the Royals have to, if they're being honest with themselves, take some of the blame as well for their clunky rollouts of the Crossroads site and some of the other issues that plagued them along the way. Like, there's a lot of people that should look in the mirror and say, you know, in part, this is my fault too. And that doesn't mean that a better plan can exist. That doesn't mean that the Royals can't get their downtown stadium. It doesn't mean that the Chiefs can't look at upgrades to Arrowhead and really owning the Truman Sports Complex. What it does mean is that the first step is to admit how we got here, and to admit that the way business was done years ago is not how it's likely to be done now, because the mindset of the electorate on the left and the right is in a very different place. So if Kansas City Democrats are going to blame the state GOP for the Chiefs going to Kansas, that's nonsense. But just like Republicans can't blame Democrats for any of this, because it's not a partisan issue. It's not. 913-408-7957. Steve, go ahead. You're on KCMO in KCMO. What's happening?
Hey, Pete, good discussion. I mean, I don't think the leverage is gone at all. I mean, I understand if you want to argue that the voters don't have oversight about this, but those are duly elected by the state legislature. The Jackson County is done. I mean, they're not going to put anything up for a vote.
No, it's
Both
not.
Teams, well, according to what Tony's Kansas City says, they're not going to deal with Jackson County anymore. So they're going to, like you said, they're going to try and put North Kansas City against Wyandotte and see who can give them the biggest tax breaks. And this is not done at all by it's a classic game that's being played in every single town across the country. They're going to get the best deal they can possibly get. And as a Kansas taxpayer, I would give them. It's a gamble I'm willing to take. I saved my money. We have a budget surplus. I'm willing to give the Chiefs and the Royals. I want the Chiefs and the Royals, and I'm willing to pay for it. And I don't think North Kansas City is. We'll see what they can put on the table for offering. But yeah, Jackson County has abdicated. They're dead. We should blame Quentin Lucas. We should blame Gene Peters Baker for running Jackson County in the ground. So. I hate to.
Well, you left out. If you're going to say Quentin Lucas is to blame, I mean, listen, I'm not here to do Quentin Lucas's bidding, but geez, you left out a guy named Frank White. If you're going to blame somebody for Jackson County going in the toilet, come on.
Sorry about that. You know, there's a lot of culprits here. But,
like I was saying, there's a lot of people to blame there, Steve.
Jackson County's had so many chances to make this right. It's just. They're not going to. They're done. They're done with dealing with Jackson County. They just don't want to deal with them anymore.
I think the Royals are done. Thank you, Steve. I think the Royals now look at doing a deal directly with Kansas City, which is on the table, and that's been talked about, or North Kansas City. Going to Wyandotte for the Royals makes no sense whatsoever. Stay where you're at then. Like, the whole point is like being in an urban environment. Love the legends. It ain't urban. And the Chiefs are pissed off where they are. Now, if they want a roof, okay, let's talk about that. but you've got all the infrastructure. You got the highway access. I mean, you got what you need there. And let's not forget, I think that there is a part of Clark Hunt that's always going to say, this is Arrowhead, this is my father's legacy, and, it is one of the most desirable stadiums in the country right now, not just because of the team, but because of what people realize we have here. And I saw the renderings. If you didn't see the renderings of the stadium over in KCK, this, I don't know, some architectural firm put together renderings.
What, these old things?
Yeah. Put it out there in KCK. And I don't know. People are like, ooh, ah. I'm like, it looks like every other new stadium rendering that's ever been done in recent memory.
As if you could tell that those little painted trees were Kansas.
Yeah.
That's okay. It was a rendering done maybe for a proposed roof. It kind of looks like Arrowhead in its shape of the bowl design, right? With a little roof on it. So it looks like something that could have been done 5-6 years ago.
I was wholly unimpressed. It just looks like every other run-of-the-mill stadium that's been built in the last few years. Mark loved it, though. Mark, you make the case.
I did. My friend said that whoever put those renderings out also did the Cardinal Stadium in Arizona, Minnesota Vikings, the new Nashville Stadium.
I think the Raiders Stadium, too. Is that right?
Raiders Stadium, yeah.
And I don't know. They got no character to me.
It's all well and good. But, still, the picture is what it is.
It is what it is. 913-408-7957. Let's get you in the conversation here as we roll through the 8 o'clock hour on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM, and stream us all morning long right here on the KCMO Talk Radio app.